All right, so recently Rampage Jackson was on the No Jumper podcast, and him and Adam started talking about how he's never done the Joe Rogan experience before, because Adam was pretty surprised by that, since obviously Rampage was a big-time UFC fighter, and he definitely seems like somebody that would have been on Joe's podcast already. You know, Joe's had on Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Rashad Evans, Chael Sonnen. You know, he's had on a lot of fighters from that era, so I think people would have guessed that Rampage Jackson would have been on there, unless they know about the beef that Rampage and Joe had, which he talks about on the No Jumper podcast. I guess him and Joe used to be cool with each other, and I think they are again, but for a while Rampage had a problem with Joe because he didn't like the way Joe was commentating his fights.
After a couple of fights in the UFC, he noticed that I wasn't checking leg kicks and that I wasn't throwing a lot of leg kicks.
Okay.
So he got real voices about it. And with social media, I had a lot of MMA fans talking about, man, you don't know how to kick and you don't know how to check leg kicks. And I was like, man, it just got annoying, right? And they kept bringing it up. They watched all my fights. They kept bringing it up because I wasn't checking leg kicks. They didn't know that the guys in the UFC, they wasn't kicking hard. And I'd rather take a kick and try to punch them. I stepped to Joe like, Joe, man, why you saying all this shit about me not knowing how to kick and not checking leg kicks? I had to tell him about my fight when I was fighting in Japan. I was checking leg kicks all the time. Those guys over there, they just kicked harder for some reason when I was fighting in Pride. And we had like a few words and stuff. And I did say something kind of bad. I got tired of people constantly talking shit about me, so I tell them, you know, watch the UFC, turn the volume down.
So I found this old interview that Rampage did where he's talking a lot of crap about Joe, and I'll play it here in a second, but I just think it's funny. That's why he hates Joe so much, or that's why he hated Joe. It sounds like they don't really have a problem anymore, but I guess while he was in the UFC, he really couldn't stand Joe because the way he'd criticize his fighting, because then it'd just lead to people on the internet also criticizing his fighting as well. And I mean, that is probably annoying, but also that's what Joe is getting paid to do. Like, if you're commenting on a fight, you're probably going to talk about a fighter's weakness and what they can improve on. And compared to some other sports commentators, I'd say Joe is usually pretty fair, and at least the guy knows how to do what he's talking about. Like, the guy can actually throw a leg kick. Like in basketball, you have Skip Bayless, who looks like he's never even touched a basketball before, telling LeBron James he doesn't know how to shoot and he's not in good shape. Like in every sport, you have to deal with this kind of stuff. But, you know, with Rampage, at least that guy, he's a fighter, so people are probably scared to criticize him most of the time.
How would a fight with you and Joe Rogan play out?
I think I beat the shit out of Joe Rogan. Long as he don't get me to the ground, because his jiu-jitsu is really good.
Yeah, he's got good jiu-jitsu.
That's what I know. You know he got good jiu-jitsu because he's so biased against jiu-jitsu guys. You can hear it in his voice. Whenever a guy is a jiu-jitsu fighter, Joe Rogan might as well be like playing the rusted trombone, like, he's a jiu-jitsu guy.
All right, I can't play too much of that part. I got to skip ahead here. But it is funny how annoyed he gets when Joe talks about jiu-jitsu. You know, it's probably a good thing he never did Joe's podcast, because that is something Joe definitely loves to talk about. But I'd love to see Rampage on there making fun of Joe, like right to his face about it. That'd be hilarious. But also, I don't think he really has a problem with Joe anymore. But it is funny hearing him talk about Joe like this.
Yeah, and I don't even got to do an interview with Joe Rogan fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, do an interview with you, and most likely he's been talking crap about you the whole time on how you don't throw no leg kicks, and I don't know why he don't throw leg kicks. I'm like, because Joe, I'm fighting a wrestler who wants to take me down really bad. That's why I ain't throwing no leg kicks. I don't know what he's doing. He's so one-dimensional. Like, and
Can you ever hear him talking?
sometimes you can hear him because Joe Rogan got one little girly high-ass voice and shit like that. You can hear it sometimes. Just want to tell him, shut the fuck up sometimes. Like, man, well, you come here and you do it. Let's see you kick this motherfucker who want to take you down. Shut the fuck up. Call me one dimension. Man, people can call me one dimension all they want. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't care. At the end of the day, it's my fight.
So I think soon after this, Joe addressed it on his podcast, and he seemed pretty surprised. He thought they were cool with each other, and he was talking about how he wasn't trying to be mean at all. He was just being objective and giving him criticism and talking about the weaknesses he has. And then he was also saying the guy's one of the best fighters ever, and it sounded like he wanted to work things out with him. He's like, I understand there's a lot of pressure on him. He's being a little too sensitive. Joe did say that, but he's like, we could work things out. I know there's a lot of pressure on the guy. And on the No Jumper podcast, Rampage did say they ended up working things out.
Then after we talked, you know, so I was cool. He kind of got it. He apologized, and then, you know, so I apologized, and then we was cool. But, you know, it's all good. I never asked anybody to be on their show.
Right.
I was just wondering why he never, you know, said, I'm like, damn, why Joe never invited me on the show?
I'm sure he's pretty all over the place at this point in terms of just because, you know, he used to do a lot more MMA content, I think. And now he's got, a different doctor and comedian every week.
Yeah, so hopefully Joe does get him on soon. I'm sure he's got a lot of good stories to talk about. And it sounded like he was kind of disappointed that Joe never invited him yet. Earlier on, it seemed like he probably would have had him on when he was having on people like Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. But I guess they still had a beef going on. And now at this point, Joe's podcast is like a completely different thing. And he probably hasn't even thought about reaching out to anyone like this. But maybe if he sees this podcast, he'll do it, or somebody tells him or something. I'm sure he'd be open to having him on. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And also, if you're interested in more content and you like the longer form videos I do, I think I have 4 or 5 of them up on my Patreon now, and I'll be posting 2 to 3 each month, and I'll upload whatever video gets taken down from YouTube on there. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go check it out. The link will be in the description. So that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.